Let me put on my microphone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. I hope everybody's doing well. Now I'm not in a beautiful sunflower field, but I'm out and about, as you can see. I'm actually a very short distance from my house. I'm a few yards away from one of the main bike trails in Arlington, Virginia, and it's an absolutely gorgeous day. So anyway guys, whenever the weather's beautiful, I always try to get away because I know it's going to get pretty chilly very quickly around here. But even when it's cold, I always try to get out. I don't go out when it's icy though. I'm pretty cautious about that. And you know, one of the reasons why I do this so often at my age is because I know eventually I probably won't be able to do this, and so I'm trying to take advantage of every day that I can do it. And trust me guys, it's not easy because just like you, I have aches and pains. There are plenty of times when I really can't get out and I need to stay home. And those of you who have joint issues, you know what I'm talking about. But like I said, I try to take advantage of my good days and get out as often as I can, especially when the weather is so beautiful. So anyway guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying nice and warm in your neck of the woods. I know in the USA we're getting ready for winter. Not everywhere, obviously. Down in Florida it's always warm, but I know in some parts of the world like Australia and New Zealand, they're getting ready for their summertime. But anyway guys, I know you're not here to talk about the weather or about the climate. I don't know why I always have to talk about that. I know you're here for a tutorial, and we're going to be making that gorgeous necklace that you saw in the introduction. Now I'm still kind of recovering from my second incident that I had with my wrist. So I'm not doing things the way I normally do them. I'm doing a lot of stringing projects these days. They're not my favorite because I don't like crimping. I'll just be honest with you. I hate crimping. Even after all these years, I still have trouble doing that for some reason. So anyway, like I said, I'm not doing things the way I normally do them. I am going to do some wrap loops for a couple of the components that I'll be making today. But I haven't fully recovered yet. My wrist still feels a little tender and I really should take it easy. And I'm always torn because I have so many projects backed up. I have a few boxes that I need to tend to, that I need to make something with, but I can't be inspired just like that. I need time, and I need to sit down and study the beads, and if I don't get inspiration, then I don't make anything with those beads. It takes me a while to get inspiration, and it doesn't always come natural, okay? I'll just tell you that right now. It just all depends on how I feel and what I see when I look at the beads. I have Sam's Bead Box, I have Curated Bead Box, and I even have Bargain Bead Box. Although Bargain Bead Box is a subscription that I actually pay for. I do get a commission though if you use my coupon code, but it would be nice if I could find time to sit down and create something with Bargain Bead Box. It's been very challenging to create anything with the little time that I've had. I was in a cast for 2 months, so that made it almost impossible for me to make anything. So hopefully Sam's Bead Box and Curated Bead Box aren't too upset with me. I'm doing the best I can, guys. But I know Stella from Didi's Deluxe Bead Box is pretty happy with me today because I'm doing a tutorial using the beads from the gorgeous October edition, the Happy Flower. That was the name of the box, and it was filled with absolutely gorgeous beads, guys. The colors were so beautiful, and I couldn't resist making something with those beads. I got inspiration almost immediately when I opened up that box. So anyway guys, if you receive that box, today's tutorial should be super easy for you because you already have the beads. But I always leave a list of all the materials down below in the description section of this video in case you don't have the beads. The other thing that I like to do is to leave timestamps in case you want to skip forward to any portion of the video. I know some of you don't necessarily want to hear me talk so much, or maybe you want to skip the beginning of the tutorial where I select the beads. I can totally understand, and that's why I leave the timestamps down there for you. Now if you stick around till the end, I will model the necklace. I'll be in my studio when I model the necklace. Obviously I'm not going to wear it out here because it's just not the thing to do, but stick around till the end because I will model it for you. I like to show you what it looks like on because it looks completely different than when it's on my board or on my workspace. Now before we get started, let me remind you to please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, because it really does help my channel and it helps me as a content creator to stay motivated to create more videos for you. And the other thing I would really appreciate is if you would leave some comments down below and give me a like or a thumbs up. And now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the tutorial. And here we have Didi's Deluxe Bead Box for the month of October. The name of the box is the Happy Flower, and they actually did not ship it out in a box this time. Normally they do, but I guess they had some kind of trouble with obtaining the packaging material. But at least they shipped it out on time, and that's what's important. But as you can see, there are tons of beads here. So let me go ahead and pull out the strands and the beads that we're going to be using. And here are the items we're going to be using from the box. As you can see, we have some gorgeous earth tones. We have some browns and some greens, and we have this gorgeous strand of natural green opal gemstone chips. But I think what inspired the necklace for me were these beautiful beads here and these leaf beads. I just thought these were so gorgeous, guys. As you can see, they have a little sunflower design painted on the surface. Now, the only thing that I feel bad about is that whenever I see a bead with a large hole like this, I want to use leather cord. But we're not going to be using leather cord today. We're going to be using some beading wire. but that's one of the reasons why I have the bead caps there, so that we can cover up some of that large hole. And of course, I love these jade leaf beads. These are actually gemstone leaves. And if you're wondering about the measurements and everything, guys, I'll leave it all down below in the description section of this video. But as you can see, the leaf has some veining on the front, and it doesn't have it on the back. It has like a concave kind of shape, as you can see. So obviously we're going to be using it this way. Now you have two choices. You can either do some wire wrapping through that hole, or you can use a jump ring. I'm going to be using a jump ring today because of the brace that I have on. It's just really difficult for me to do any kind of wire wrapping. I will do some wire wrapping, but I don't want to put all of these on wire because it's just too much for my hand. So I'm going to take the easy route with these leaves and use jump rings. But like I said, if you want to do wire wrapping, I would recommend that you use something relatively thin, like maybe 24 gauge. Now these petal beads measure 8 millimeters in size, so they're the perfect size for these sunflower beads. And by the way, these are made out of ceramic and they measure 10 millimeters. And I love the chips on this strand. I love the colors. They range in size between 5 and 8 millimeters, so they're not very big chips at all. And these beads here are volcanic lava beads. They're dyed in a brown color, as you can see, and they measure 6 millimeters. So anyway, if you have the Didi's Deluxe Bead Box for October, this is going to be a very easy tutorial because you won't have to go search for similar items. If you don't have the box, obviously, you're going to have to do a search either on Google or Etsy or Amazon. And like I said, I'll leave the details of all the contents down below in the description section of this video. So let me show you what else we're going to be using. We're going to be using some beading wire, and this is by Beading. It's 49 strand beading wire. It's in a satin gold color, as you can see. And the diameter of this beading wire is 0.018 of an inch, or 0.46 millimeters. And one of the things I like about Beading is that they give you the size crimp tube or crimp bead that you need. And right here it says that you need size 2 crimp tubes, and that's what we're going to be using today. As you can see, I have my size 2 crimp tubes right here. It says it right on the container, so that's really handy. I'm going to be using some seed beads today, and these are size 8/0, and the color is matte medium bronze metallic. I love this kind of finish because it's not exactly matte. It has a little bit of a luster on it, which is very attractive in my opinion. But any brown colored seed bead in a size 8/0 would be okay. I'm going to be using a very small amount of craft wire, and this is by Artistic Wire. As you can see, the color is antique brass, and it's 22 gauge artistic wire. I have some jump rings here and a lobster claw clasp. As you can see, they're in an antique bronze color. Now most of these are 7 millimeters in size, but these two are 6 millimeters. I'm going to use these two for the clasp, and these are going to be for the leaves. It's important to use this size jump ring because anything smaller than that will not be big enough to fit through the hole of those leaf beads. And also the leaf beads need to hang at a certain distance because otherwise they'll bump into the beads that are going to be on the strand next to them. I'm going to be using some chain to finish off the necklace, and these are oval lengths, as you can see, and they're not necessarily small, but they're not large either. I would say they're a medium-sized length. We're going to work on the lower strand first, and here are the beads we're going to use for the lower strand. As you can see, I've already attached jump rings to most of the leaf beads, but I left one without a jump ring because I want to show you how to do it. For those of you who don't know, here's my 7 millimeter jump ring, and let's go ahead and open up the jump ring. It's very easy, guys. There's no mystery to this. You just feed it through the hole of the bead like this. And then you do want to make sure that you close the jump ring really well because you don't want your beading wire to slide through the gap. So I'm going to take extra caution to make sure that there's no gap at all. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy. Now one thing I do like to do is to rotate that jump ring so that the gap sits inside the hole of the bead like that. Now that doesn't guarantee that it'll stay that way, but at least if you slide it in there, by the time you thread all the other beads, hopefully it won't move as much. But like I said, as long as you close your jump rings really well, you shouldn't have any problem. Now to arrange my bead patterns, I'm going to use my magic rods. I carry these in my Etsy store, and I'm sure you've seen me use these in previous videos. I like to use these because it makes creating bead patterns super easy. As you can see, there are stoppers on the ends, so that means you can bring all the beads in close. But one of the nice things about these magic rods is that you can load anything from seed beads to bead caps, and you can load chips, all kinds of shapes, and then slide them in close and hold them in place with the stoppers. And by doing that, you get accurate measurements. The other nice thing about the rods is that because everything's lined up on the rod, it makes it super easy to offload from the rod onto the beading wire because the holes are all lined up. And I'll show you what I mean later on when we go to thread everything. But I'm only going to need one, so let me remove the other one. Like I said, we're going to work on the lower strand first. I'm going to remove the stopper. And I was thinking of maybe having seed beads up by the main strand of the necklace. It's a good idea to have smaller beads at the top where the two strands meet. And I don't know how many just yet, so I'm just going to load a few and then we'll figure it out later on. I'm thinking maybe 1.5 inches worth, something like that. Let me go ahead and put my stopper on. And I'll go to this end now, remove the stopper, and now I'm going to thread these sunflower beads. So I think what I'll do is load a bead cap first, and then a sunflower bead, another bead cap, and maybe a volcanic lava bead, like this. Now I've already played around with my design and I've made sketches, so I have some idea of what I'm going to be doing. So let me go ahead and load one of these leaf beads and then another volcanic lava bead. So this is what we have. I think that looks super cute. And now we're going to load another bead cap and another one of these ceramic beads and another bead cap. Let me go ahead and load another lava bead, another one of these leaf charms, and another lava bead. I really like that. So let me continue the pattern. I'm going to keep loading these ceramic beads until I get to the end, and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see, I loaded my rod and I think it looks really, really cute. Let me go ahead and measure it. It measures about 7.5 inches, and I actually did remove some of the seed beads from this end. So there's actually a total of 15 seed beads here and another 15 seed beads on that side. But now that I'm looking at this design, I'm thinking maybe I need to remove one of these and just have 5 of the sunflower ceramic beads and maybe more of the seed beads on the sides. That's what I'm thinking of right now. It's a little different than what I had sketched out, but sometimes you don't know exactly how it's going to look until you actually load the rod and see how everything fits. So let me go ahead and remove one of these sunflower ceramic beads. Obviously, I'm going to have to also remove this jade leaf bead. And I think that looks a little bit better. So now I'm just going to add some more seed beads at the end. Okay, as you can see, I removed that sunflower ceramic bead and I added more seed beads on the end, and I think I like this a little bit better. And by the way, guys, these rods do come in a longer length. This is the 9-inch length, and I actually wished I had used the 12-inch length because, as you can see, I didn't have a lot of room left. But let me go ahead and measure this length now. It's about 8 inches, and I think that's fine. So now that we've built the lower strand, we're going to go ahead and build the upper strand. Let me put this off to the side. Here's my second rod. Let me remove these bead caps because we're not going to be using these. We are going to be using some of these chips. So the upper strand obviously needs to be shorter than this one, and I'm thinking maybe 1.5 inches shorter. So I'm going to need to build myself a 6.5-inch strand. And once again, I want to start out with seed beads. And I've loaded about 20 seed beads here. As you can see, it's less than what I have on that strand. I believe there are 24 seed beads on the longest strand. So now I'm going to load some of these lava beads, and I'm going to separate them with seed beads. I'm thinking maybe 2 seed beads in between each one of the lava beads. I think that looks really cute. I like that. And like I said before, I need to build myself a 6.5-inch strand. So I think what I'll do now is load some of these chips. So let me go ahead and remove some from the strand. And I really don't know how many I want at this point. I'll figure it out in just a second. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I loaded both rods, and I did make another little change there because I felt like I needed more chip beads in the middle, but that's part of the design process. Sometimes when you arrange your bead patterns, you may decide that things need to be changed. It's a very common occurrence with me, and I think with a lot of people. But anyway, guys, now that this process is done, all we have to do is load it onto beading wire. So I'm going to cut myself 2 pieces. One's going to be 12 inches long and the other one's going to be about 10 inches long. And my rule of thumb is that I always leave myself at least 2 inches at each end of the beading wire to do the crimping. So whatever length you decide to make for yourself, just keep that in mind. Let me just go ahead and measure it. Here's my longer piece. We're going to work on the lower portion first. I have a clip here that I'm going to place on the end so I don't lose the beads. You can use a bead stopper if you want to. So let me go ahead and offload. And to offload from the rods, you have to hold onto this end so you don't lose the beads that way. Remove the stopper from this end. And now I'm going to offload the seed beads in multiples. Just like that. And that's what I meant earlier when I said that the rods line up the holes, so it makes it easier to thread onto beading wire. So I'm going to keep loading my beads, making sure that I maintain the integrity of the pattern, the bead pattern. And by the way, guys, if you have bead caps, you can remove the whole thing like this, and then holding it like this, I can now thread it onto my beading wire very easily like this. So let me keep threading these and I'll meet you back. As you can see, I threaded my beads on. So now we're going to go ahead and crimp off the ends. Here are 2 crimp tubes, and here's some crimp bead covers. I forgot to mention that I do want to use these. They're about a 3mm size and they're in the bronze color, as you can see, but it's totally optional. You don't have to use crimp bead covers if you don't want to. Now, one thing I'm not going to use on the strands are wire guardians. I usually only use those by the clasp. I don't think it's necessary to use them anywhere else because there's not a whole lot of stress on the beading wire, but if you want to use these, you certainly can. So let's go ahead and do this end. I'm simply going to thread on a crimp tube like this. Take the tail and thread it back through like this. Shorten the loop. And can I tell you guys how much I hate crimping? I really hate it. I really do. I'd much rather work with wire. And it's to do with the way the wires sit inside that crimp tube. It's really hard to see if they're crossed. You're supposed to separate them, and that's very difficult to do. But if you hold your beading wire like this, you should be able to do it. Let me shorten that loop a little bit. So now I'm going to use these crimping pliers. These are by Xuron. And if you'll notice, the first notch is a very deep notch, and that's what creates the U shape. And that's where you want to place the crimp tube initially. And before you crimp down, make sure you separate that beading wire, and then go ahead and crimp down. And now we're going to turn it on its side. And I'm going to choose one of the 3 notches up front. I usually choose the middle notch. You want to place your crimp tube inside that notch, and once you've positioned your crimp tube in there, go ahead and squeeze it, and that folds the crimp tube over. And then I always go to the tip of the pliers to tighten it up a little bit, and this is what you should have. Once you've crimped your crimp tube, go ahead and cut off the excess beading wire, and now we're going to attach one of these crimp bead covers. Like this. To close the crimp bead cover, I use these kinds of pliers. These are also crimping pliers. I like to use them because they do a good job of closing the crimp bead covers really good, really well. But you do need to be gentle because you don't want to dent the metal. So I usually go all the way around the crimp bead cover, and you want to take your time when you do this. So that looks pretty good. So now that we've done that, we're going to move everything down. Make sure there are no spaces, but you don't want it too tight. And let's go ahead and thread this crimp tube. Bring it down. Take the tail and thread it back through the crimp tube. And bring everything down. And shorten the loop. And you do want to make sure that the loops are the same, okay? That's the other thing you want to check. Make sure that your loops are the same on both ends. And once again, I'm going to place the crimp tube inside the first notch. Crimp down. Turn it on its side. Place it in the middle notch. Fold it over and tighten it up a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let me cut off the excess. And now we'll slip on the crimp tube cover. And let me close it up. So that looks pretty good. Both ends are done. I think it's super cute. So now that I've shown you how to do the crimping on this strand, I'm going to go ahead and load these beads on my other piece of beading wire and do the crimping, and I'll meet you back. As you can see, I've completed both strands. Everything's crimped off, so all we have to do now is attach the chain. But before we attach the chain, I'm going to build a component using the chips, and I'm going to put one on each side. Let me just move these up. I'm not going to need very many chips. I'm thinking maybe 5 on each side. I am going to use some of this craft wire. It's a good idea to straighten your craft wire before you cut it off the spool. And you want to cut yourself a generous amount. I'm going to cut myself about 2.5-inch pieces. We are going to be doing some wrap loops, so you need a generous amount. Here are 2 pieces of chain. Each one of these measures about 5 inches, but I'll probably end up trimming some of it off because I'm going to need to decide how long I want my necklace. And so what I'll do is take the necklace to the mirror and hold it up to my chest before I actually attach the clasp. So let me go ahead and show you how to do this. I'm going to grab the wire with my round nose pliers about 1/3 of the way down, kink it, switch the positioning, and I do want a pretty large loop, so I'm going to place the wire up into the thickest part of my pliers. But it all depends on your preference, how big you want your loop. Once you have it there, you're going to take the tail, wrap it around the nose of your pliers, like this, flip the pliers around, and continue to wrap that tail towards the back, like this. Remove the pliers. Now before we close the loop with wraps, we need to attach the chain, like this. I always like to grab the loop with some skinny pliers, and I am using my crimping pliers that I used earlier, but I'm using just the tip, and I like to use these because they grab really well. And now with another set of pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and do a couple of wraps. You can do as many wraps as you want to. I like to do between 2 and 3, something like that. But it's totally up to you. So now I'm going to cut off the excess. And if you see anything sticking out, you want to tuck it in. You definitely don't want anything sharp sticking out. So now that I've done my wraps, I'm going to go ahead and load some chips. And I'm thinking maybe 5 chips. So that looks pretty good. And by the way, guys, when you load chips, it's a good idea to turn them like this so that they settle up against each other without any spaces, if that makes any sense. Because as you can see, chips have irregular sides, so you really do need to turn them and help them settle into each other. So now we're going to do another loop at this end. I'm going to grab the wire at the top of the chip like this, turn the bottom loop so it's lined up, kink the wire away from me, switch to the same spot that I was on when I did this loop, wrap the tail around, flip the pliers around, and continue to wrap towards the back. Remove the pliers, and now before we close this loop with wraps, we're going to attach the strands. So let me go ahead and attach this one, slip it in, and now I'm going to attach the other one, the shorter one. I'm going to grab the loop with my skinny pliers, grab the tail, and do a couple of wraps. Cut off the excess, tuck in the little tail if you need to. So there's the beaded component, and I think it looks really adorable. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing to this side, and I'm going to speed up the film and I'll meet you back. Okay, as you can see, I completed the other side and attached the chain, and so far I think it's adorable. So now I just need to figure out how long I want the necklace. So what I'll do now is take it to the mirror and hold it up to my chest and see if I need to trim that chain. So let me go ahead and do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I did end up trimming about 1 inch off the chain. Like I said, guys, you're going to have to decide how long you want your necklace. Everybody's different and everybody has different preferences. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach the lobster claw clasp. Here are 2 jump rings. These are the 6mm size. And here's my lobster claw clasp. This is the easiest part of the tutorial. And I know some of you already know how to do this, but I'm showing you this process in case there are beginners watching this video. So now we just need to attach it to the end of the chain like this. And let's go ahead and attach the lobster claw clasp and close up the jump ring really well. And let's go ahead and open up this one now. So this end will just have the jump ring. Let me go ahead and arrange it on my board so you can see how it looks. Is this an adorable necklace or what? I really love how it turned out. I love the beautiful organic look of the chips and all the earth tones. I think the leaves add a really nice touch. And of course these ceramic sunflower beads are absolutely gorgeous. They add that little splash of color to liven up the piece. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this necklace. And now what I'd like to do is go ahead and put it on and show you what it looks like. Well, what do you think? Did you like that necklace? Isn't it gorgeous? It would be really nice if you could leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hopefully my tutorial has inspired you to make your own necklace. And if you don't have the beads and you can't make one exactly the same, perhaps you can find similar beads and make your own version. So anyway, guys, I do appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.